Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Full house tonight. This is great. I love this. I see, yes, Cindy Andrews has brought her army with her. Anyways, I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, July 13th to order. I'm just, before I start here, I just want to introduce our new Chief Administration Officer, Jason Johnson. Jason, if you could stand. This is Jason's first meeting. He's been on the ground for almost 10 days now, right? Well, eight, yeah. Before we move on, a quick territorial acknowledgement. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples of the Crescent and Songhees nations, who have stewarded these lands since time immemorial. Next item, item 2, approval of the agenda. I have one item that I want to add to, on the agenda as item 9.3. It's the next generation 9/11 bilateral agreement between the city of Colwood and the CRD, and it will be presented by Fire Chief Brian Irwin. We have to make a decision before our next meeting, so we had to slip this in very quickly. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt today's go ahead. Councillor Olson.
Just quickly for staff, I still, in the near term and long term agenda, I'm not seeing the review of the age-friendly community plan. So I just wanted to make sure, and that's probably why Councillor Jordison's light's on as well, but that does need to be on the near term or long term. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Noted. We shall do that. Councillor Jordison.
Yeah, and I may have missed it, but I don't see the refuge, the garbage collection discussion on the agenda in the long-term agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. Okay, at this point in time, may I just have a mover and seconder to adopt today's council agenda as amended and receipt of the near and long-term agenda. Okay, the Councillor Day or Olson and Councillor Grove seconds. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Just mayor's message, just welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone had a relaxing and enjoyable holiday season. We look forward to this year. There is so much on the agenda this year. So it's going to be a very, very busy year. Look forward to it, the challenges. On that note, I will move to item 4, which is adoption and receipt of the minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the adoption of council minutes and the receipt of committee minutes as listed in the agenda. Okay, Councillor Grove and Councillor Olson. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Now we get to public participation, and we had one written submission that was received prior to today to the publishing of the agenda, and one written submission that was received after publication, and that will be appended to the agenda tomorrow. No members of the public have registered to speak virtually. So at this point in time, I will ask members from the public to be given this opportunity to present your concerns or ask questions. You'll have 2 minutes, and alternately, you can wait to, if you want to talk to a specific agenda item, you can wait to that point in time. Or does anyone want to wait? Okay, seeing none, I will now open the floor up. Cindy, please.
Good evening and thank you and Happy New Year. I'm actually going to ask if the council could indulge me. We timed this, but if I go a smidge over 2, to get beeped off the stage would really suck. So if you don't mind, if it's possible to give me just a smidge, I promise not to be a whole lot longer than 2 minutes.
I won't even take it to vote, Cindy. We will allow you that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for all that you do for our community. I'm really here because I believe in our community and I believe in protecting public safety. My husband behind me is going, good Lord, she's already off script. And it's true, I am. Before I tell you the story, I do want to give thanks to the 20+ people in the room this evening who are joining me because they share in my concern, and that's why they're here tonight. So I'd like to address council with my concerns regarding a vicious dog attack on December 28th on Owens Road. That's the same road that our city has just spent a substantial amount of money on to put beautiful sidewalks to facilitate hundreds and hundreds of children traveling to and from school every day. My dog Farley, a 50-pound duck tolling retriever, or toller for short, and I were the victims of a dog who bolted from a house through an open front door, completely unprovoked, on the street, out to the street, sorry, where he immediately began attacking Farley. I jumped in to defend, as most mummy bears in the room would do, and was quickly overpowered. In the melee that ensued for several minutes, the melee that happened for about 5 minutes, I was knocked down, broke my nose. I have many cuts and bruises and a bite on my knee. And for those wondering, I'm grateful to say my dog is alive and had a puncture wound and bruising, and that was that. But that's probably because I frankly saved my dog's life. I can also do 100 push-ups under 10 minutes, so I'm stronger than I look. Eventually, a man arrived after I screamed constantly for that period of time. I heard him, and I don't know who he is, and if you're listening out there, I thank you a million times because you saved my dog's life as well. He struggled. He finally got the dog off me, and then the dog escaped his grasp again, back on me, and then it took 2 men to restrain the dog. First responders, neighbors, police, ambulance, and the CRD were soon on the scene. In the aftermath, we made our statement to the CRD bylaw office. We recently found out that the dog, and here's the kicker, was not considered a dangerous dog. I repeat, CRD made the decision that that dog, on an unprovoked attack, on a dog walking by, not on their property, attacked, and that dog is not a dangerous dog. Suffice to say, my husband and I were surprised by this outcome, and frankly, as are all of the people that are here tonight to support me and the many others who couldn't join us. So we took it upon ourselves to get more informed in what does the definition of a dangerous dog mean. It does indicate the dog, that basically a dog or human needs to be seriously injured or killed. Now, we could debate about this, and I'm okay. And for those of you who know me, know I'm a fairly tough cookie who can take a licking and still get up and go. But I had a concussion. I've broken my nose. Not bad enough for a free nose job, just saying. But I broke my nose nonetheless, and I'm covered in bruises. Right? So I'd suggest that that could be a very serious injury, and potentially even more serious if I was, somebody other, if I was a less physically capable or a young child or a senior. You get my point. Okay. So the definition allows for an officer to consider the dog dangerous if there are reasonable grounds that the dog might kill or injure a person. Okay. And yet the final decision made was that the dog was not a dangerous dog. In this case, we believe the dog in question poses a significant threat to humans and other animals and should be considered dangerous. While the level of injury may not meet the serious injury or death criteria, is it intent, or should we consider simply the physical outcome? What if this was a smaller dog, or a young child walking with a family dog, or a young mom with a newborn in the stroller and a dog beside it, or someone not as physically capable as I am? So I leave council with a couple of concerns and requests. One, to follow up with CRD to see if there's an appeal with regards to their determination process. And 2, to review the Colwood bylaws from which CRD operates to investigate how something like this does not have more serious repercussions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Cindy. And I absolutely regret what has happened to you. I'm so sorry, as you know. You did, I will admit that you did talk to me about it, and I do take this exceptionally seriously right now. And I wanted the process to work, and I think the process has failed us. So absolutely, we'll follow up on your recommendations. In fact, maybe look for a motion on the floor just to have a review of our own personal bylaw. That's one thing we can control right now. Councillor Day and Councillor Grove. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none. Any opposed? Go. Okay, any opposed? Seeing none, that's one issue we'll look after. But the second one is that I will contact myself personally with the CRD, and I'm going to have this reviewed again. Okay.
Thank you very much. And if you need me, I know you know how to reach me.
Oh, yeah.
I would welcome that. And it's too important to me to protect the public safety of others. So we're in this together. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy.
Bye-bye.
Anyone else from the public at this point in time? Carol.
Carol Brown, CENIC. CENIC members would like to wish a happy new year to Mayor and Council and look forward to the beginning of our 5th year in operation. We will continue to work towards encouraging and supporting climate action and a sustainable environment in Colwood. This evening, it is our pleasure to present to you a proposal to increase the parkland in our city. We recognize the importance of maintaining as much of our remaining tree canopy as possible with the associated natural ecological habitat. Through usual building practices, much of our developed land has lost its original mature trees. 24% of Colwood's entire tree canopy has been lost in the last 25 years. Along with the loss of tree canopy, we lose ecosystems, wildlife corridors, the opportunity for greater sequestration of CO2, and we lose places to cool ourselves down from heat and stress. Tonight, we are asking you to consider a proposal to increase the parkland adjacent to Havenwood Park and create a legacy for the future. CENIC has invited Kevin Smith from Habitat Acquisition Trust to be here this evening to answer questions you may have for HAT. Also, a representative from CRD Parks Planning Department has indicated he will be watching by video. And our Parks Manager, Gord Beauvillier, is present electronically. Representatives from Friends of Havenwood and CENIC are also here in attendance. The school board chair sends their regrets at not being able to attend this evening. We hope that you will see the merit of our presentation and consider the suggested requests for staff consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public wish to speak, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year. My name is Kevin Smith. As Carol mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of Habitat Acquisition Trust, and we hold a covenant with the City of Colwood on Havenwood Park. And I'm here to support their presentation tonight about the potential to add some parcels potentially to parkland within Colwood. As you know, there's quite a bit of development, and I think there's an opportunity to balance that development with some parkland to increase ecological corridors, biodiversity, and other natural values within the beautiful city of Colwood. So any questions you might have, I'm here tonight to help out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak from the public? Yeah, that's under delegations. Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public participation period. And we shall move on to the next item, which in fact is I told you brought an army. Okay, we shall move on to the next portion, which is delegations, and Carol Brown and Stephen Doyle, right? Stephan, right?
I'm here to introduce our delegation presentation tonight, and Stephan Doyle will proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I can actually advance the slides here. Yeah, I'm not sure this is the same presentation that was in the agenda, but it's probably similar. Okay. I wish I knew a good, clean joke right now, but I don't. There we go. Thank you. All right, perfect. That's okay. And this is how I advance here. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about the delay to everyone in the room here. My name is Stephan Doyle and I am representing CENIC. It's my pleasure to speak to you today. So thank you for your time. I'm here to talk about a very rare opportunity, something very special that has come along to all of us, to conserve natural parkland and tree canopy in the city of Colwood. And so I want to take about 10 minutes to talk to you about this opportunity. On the right are some really important plans that all of you know well. And within those plans are goals that are always hard to achieve. Protecting our biodiversity and our ecosystem and our environment. Doing something about climate change. Improving the health and well-being of our citizens. Something that obviously is very important to this council with the recent clinic that we've added. Making these goals or achieving these goals will require bold leadership, decisive action, and creative thinking at all times. And so we have what we think is an opportunity that will allow for more of that. If you look at the photo before you, in the center is Havenwood Park. And I want to talk to you about 3 properties today that are available. What I mean by available is that 2 of them are currently for sale and 1 of them is currently undeveloped. I'm going to go into details about them, but 3460 is to the north of Havenwood Park. It's bisected by Veterans Memorial Parkway. 567 Winthrop is one that you actually see when you drive up just past the roundabout, and 678 Latoria is the one that is just adjacent to the Latoria Creek area. Our request to council is for you to direct staff to do 3 things today. 1, we'd like you to engage with School District 62, find out what their intentions are for this land. My understanding is it's been in their portfolio for many, many years, and we're unsure if they have any plans for it. We'd like you to contact the sellers of these 2 pieces of land and ask them or let them know that there may be consideration to acquire this for Parkland. And thirdly, I'm a realist here. We're talking about a lot of money, I think, not the kind of thing that we can find in an existing contingency fund. So we're going to need to find partners. That's the part about being creative. My understanding is there's not a CRD park in Colwood. Wouldn't it be nice if we got one? Maybe they have pockets that will help fill the coffers for this. Habitat Acquisition Trust is here, and they have vested interest in this land, and they have partners that could help us. And perhaps there are other public and private funding sources that we can look to. If I sort of go into a little bit more detail about each piece of these land, I start with 567 Winthrop. So this one, as I said, is on the east side of Veterans Memorial Parkway. It's currently for sale. It's about a 4-acre development site. And if I just sort of show you a few pictures of this piece of land, it's a beautiful, healthy, natural ecosystem already. It includes a watershed. In fact, last summer, the Friends of Havenwood was in this land, and we were cleaning up the creek right to the edge of the park. And we saw this beautiful piece of land, and we're hoping that it could be added to that park. It's a current wildlife corridor. This is a photo of a deer. In fact, there's a sign on BMP that says, "Caution, animal crossing." And perhaps just as importantly as the fact that it's a nature preserve is that this could really help the active transportation plan. The development that's going on in the Latoria area is going to be incredible. There's going to be a lot of tall buildings with a lot of small 2-bedroom apartments. It'd be nice to actually have additional connectivity to this land and perhaps allow people to get closer to Latoria Walk, the Red Barn, etc., and future Olympic View developments. 678 Latoria Road is a large property. It's about 11 acres, currently designated as agricultural use. It's owned by the School District 62. They've recently posted in the last 3 months, this land is left in its natural state, use at own risk. So they're aware that it's being used right now. If I zero in on it and to show you a little bit more about that, I'll just jump to bullet point 4 in the interest of time. It is immediately to the west of this land is the municipality of Langford. So in addition to being close to Havenwood Park, close to Latoria, or connected to Havenwood Park, connected to Latoria Walk Park, it's also something that I think the residents of Langford would be interested in perhaps preserving for future generations. This piece of land, I think there's a lot of people who use it right now that would actually be alarmed to find out that it's not a park. It already is being used by families to go on nature walks. It's already being used by dog walkers. I've actually seen a wedding occur in this park, believe it or not. Perhaps they didn't let the school district know that that was happening. There's an unofficial mountain bike area that's being used. So there are youth that use this park right now. I'm not saying that's how it should be used, but if it isn't being used appropriately, and if there's things like invasive species and garbage, and at one time in the past, this was a homestead. So I understand how it's sort of gone by the wayside. But if it became a parkland, we could preserve it, we could fix it, we could improve it. And I can speak on behalf of some of the Friends of Havenwood Park. We would love to do that. And there'd be less of this going on here if you look at this image. Bonfires in the evenings. We can't have things like that happening in this area. That structure, whether it's a danger or not, I think it's time to sort of consider how we put our arms around this beautiful piece of land. It also is a key connector. So that's just a photograph of Grand Rose Terrace there. There's an access point to the park there. There's access points from Langford all along Latoria Walk. This bridge, which is currently under construction right now, just in Latoria Walk, is right in that area. So this would continue to add to our active transportation corridor. I've been in this park. I've seen deer. I've seen owls. I've seen heard frogs. There's probably lots of animals I don't want to see in the park there, like cougars and bears. But right now, if we were to go and visit it, it's a seasonal creek flow. You can hear the creek flowing into Latoria Walk. There's water that's collected. In the spring, pond lanterns and frogs come in. It's just a beautiful, peaceful place. There are trees in this park. I've gone in with a measuring tape. I've plugged in that information into an online calculator. There are trees in this park that could be 300 years old. These are the kinds of things that we have to protect. I'll close with the last piece of land, 3460 or 3461 Veterans Memorial Parkway. I think many of you are familiar with this piece of land. It is bisected by Veterans Memorial Park, and it's about 3.5 hectares. I think the last council wrestled with this one, what to do with this land. But whatever happened back then, I'm pretty sure we didn't want to have what has happened now. The land was cleared, clear cut. Invasive species have since, taken over. And it's just a reminder right now of development gone wrong. So I don't know what we would do with this, but it seems to be just a crucial location. Maybe it could be an off-leash dog area with safe dogs that are allowed to run in it. Maybe if VMP is ever widened, not something I know whether that's in the plans or not, but the parking that currently is on VMP, perhaps this is a parking lot or nature. We're not here to talk about that today, what we would do, but like I said, we have an opportunity that I don't think presents itself very often. That's 3 significant, beautiful pieces of land adjacent to Havenwood Park, which may be the crown jewel in all of our parks here in Colwood, comes available and gives us this opportunity. So I want to thank you very much for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Stephan. The only things that I can say to you right now, Stephan, is that for once your council is ahead of you. And so we're looking at this, and it's all been in camera because we don't want to jeopardize negotiations if it comes down to that. So we haven't closed the loop on it right now. So I don't know exactly. I couldn't give you a status, and because it is in camera right now, I can't say much more than that. But I can tell you that we looked at this. I think it was you, Carol, that started it all with us. So yes, yeah. So we did listen. So I can tell you that there's nothing new here that we haven't seen. So that's what I can tell you at this point in time. Okay. So we don't have to make a motion of any sort because it is being looked at. Okay. I guess that's it for delegations. Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. You're gonna have to show different animals, Stephan. I saw those little tiny owls. They're called northern something. They're little wee owls. They're in there. Sowet. That's what they are. Little northern sowets. I've seen a couple of those in there. So yeah. Okay. At this point in time, we shall move to the consent agenda, and I've already had a request that 7.1 be removed off the consent agenda, and I will move it to 9.4 under new business. Councillor Dean.
Sorry, and I just realized that I really have a comment regarding 7.2 that I'd like to make as well. So is that possible?
So that becomes 9.5. No, I mean, you have every right to pull anything you want off the consent agenda.
Thank you.
So 7.2 will now become 9.5. So we have nothing on the consent agenda. And now I'll move on to item number 8, which is notice of motions. We have 2 notices of notice of motions, one for Councillor Ward and one from Councillor Jantzen. And at this point in time, I'll just get Councillor Ward, if you could read your motion, and followed by Councillor Jantzen. Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, first, I'd like to say that this should be retitled. It's inaccurately titled application of a section 219 covenant. While there's reference to a 219 covenant in the motion, it's not, I think that does it a bit of, it's misleading anyway. So it should be a strategic parking review motion. So the recommendation from the motion is that City of Colwood staff explore the impact of provincial housing regulations on parking in Colwood and return to council with identified areas of concern, if any, and possible mitigation strategies applicable by the City of Colwood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So that will be discussed on the January 27th regular council meeting. And I shall move to Councillor Jantzen. Councillor Jantzen.
I thank your worship. This motion pertains to Cecil Blogg Drive. Recommendation that staff explore opportunities to mitigate increased traffic and speeding on Cecil Blogg Drive from Souk Road to Jacqueline Road. And that all options be considered, from signage changes up to and including potential restrictions of westbound traffic on Cecil Blogg Drive. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And again, that will be discussed at the January 27th meeting, regular council meeting. Okay, we'll move on to a new business. 9.1. Rick Smith, nuisance property abatement and cost recovery, 3411 Marianne Crescent.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year to you all. I haven't seen everybody. This report is a report about 3411 Marianne Crescent to declare it a nuisance property. This house has had 8 complaints in 2024 for unsightly premise. Also in 2023, there was another 7 complaints for unsightly premise. With this residence, the property owner always brings the property into compliance within 3 to 4 weeks. However, it's bylaw time to go back there during these 16 events. If Mayor and Council do declare the property a nuisance, bylaw can start charging for attendance for a complaint. If it is a valid complaint, it would be a $250 bill to the homeowner. If the homeowner does not want to pay, that goes on its property taxes as a debt to the city. So, and options for council are on the reports, and I look forward to any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Councillor Jantzen, questions?
No, thank you, worship. I mean, when the time comes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. This is a premise that has attracted some attention in the neighborhood and has been the cause for some concern. Yes, our team has been there on a quasi-regular basis, and I think it's incumbent upon us as a community to try and recover some of the ongoing costs until this premise is brought into compliance. I'm happy to move it.
I'll circle around to you. Thank you. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very familiar with this property, and I actually do have a question, and it might be for Fire Chief. But this particular property does have stacks of wood that essentially create a fence around the perimeter of the property. And while it's made of wood and our fences are made of wood, there is a lot of open welding going on in the property. And there have been times that I've seen burn patches of grass, dry grass in the summer along the roadside there. And so my question would be the fact that, you've got all of this wood, open welding. It seems like a bit of a fire hazard as well for the neighborhood. So, I just would like to say that I'm quite pleased to see this property come on the agenda this evening, and I do support the motion. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. Just a quick question for Chief Aaron. Do you have the ability, Chief, to, when you observe something like this, or do you have to do it through bylaws? Do you have the authority to, from a fire hazard point of view, to write the ticket or do something about it? Or do you have to go do it through bylaws? Just a question.
To answer that directly, we will take any action that we can enforce any action if there's a public safety concern.
Mhm.
And if there is something along those lines, we do have some authority in that realm.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. So thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Day.
Thank you. This property, although I recognize that the long history of the many times that you've been called to action there are no pictures showing with this one. There are with the next one, but none with this one. Was there a reason for that?
As through the chair, it's a separate report from the unsightly premise. With unsightly premise reports, we show mayor and council what the property looks like. This is just to declare the property nuisance. So in case an unsightly complaint happens again, then we can bill for the time.
And the complainants, is this multiple complainants or just one or two people with the same issue?
Through the chair, it's multiple complainants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Seeing that no other questions, Councillor Jantzen moves it. Councillor Grove seconds it. Discussion? Seeing none, any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, it's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you. Over to you again, Rick.
This report is for an unsightly premise at 2962 Old Martin Place. Colwood Bylaw received a complaint on September the 9th of 2024. The property owner picked a date of a couple of weeks down the road for cleanup. That deadline came and went with no work being done on the property. We did an inspection on the 8th. Nothing was done. A couple of tickets were issued. Those tickets have still been left unpaid. To this date, the property is still a mess as seen in the photos. I was just there that last Friday. Nothing's been done. If mayor and council do decide to declare this property unsightly, a letter will go out to the homeowner, giving them approximately 14 to 30 days to clean up the property. If they fail to do so, that means our agents or the city can go on the property, do the cleanup, and the bill goes on their property taxes if they do not pay by December 31st.
Open up for questions. Councillor Day.
Thank you. It appears from the photos that most of the problematic items are at the rear of the property and out of sight of other houses. Is that correct?
I would say 85% is at the back property, and that's what I focused on with those photos. There is stuff in the driveway and to the right-hand side of the driveway as well.
I think that it looks like a property that's in progress just by what I saw in the photos. Is that something that you would address by giving more time, or have they informed you that they're working towards a particular date or a particular event?
At this time, they've had since September of last year, September 9th, to clean up the property. So at this time, we're sort of, this is why I'm here. The tickets are still outstanding. Our next step is to have mayor and council declared unsightly so we can possibly facilitate the cleanup.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jantzen.
Thank you, Worship. I too had a couple of small inquiries, Rick, and I'm in favor of this, what you're suggesting. But firstly, I mean, I just had a quick look at the bylaw while Councillor Day was speaking. Is there a requirement that the detritus be able to be seen by somebody? Like, for instance, if you throw a tarp over a bunch of garbage, is it now not unsightly, or like how do you define that?
It's all the exposed items that people can see. So if somebody were to put up a 10 by 10 gazebo and tarp it, put everything in there, out of sight, out of mind. We have given this homeowner suggestions to do that.
Okay.
They did put up a gazebo with tarps around it, but they're using it for a smoking area now. Okay. So they're not taking things to heart here. So,
yeah. And to be fair, is it fair to say that a bunch of work has been done to get us to this point? Like, we don't take these decisions lightly, and we can be assured that you've attempted to resolve this informally the best you can.
Through the chair, that is correct. We've been working on this since last year in September. We've offered help if the homeowner needs help with different resources. Everything has been, no, we don't need help. I'll get it done. Too many excuses, so here we are.
And just help me out a little, and it might be a little bit weak in the wording of the bylaw, but would not going the same route as a nuisance property, I mean, maybe you could explain the difference or how you chose this route.
So because the first one, the nuisance property that we just spoke with,
Right.
has multiple complaints, 16 in total. There you go, the nuisance. This is once this year or once last year and once in the previous year. So in bylaw view, that doesn't meet the threshold of going for a nuisance property.
Perfect.
If this continues down the road multiple times, yes, it could be.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, can I get the motion, please? Staff recommendation. Okay, Councillor Olson, seconder, Councillor Jordison. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Thanks very much, Rick. Still got a tough job, Rick. I don't want your job, ever. Okay, the next item, 9.3, next generation 911 bilateral agreement between the City of Colwood and the CRD. Chief Irwin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for getting this late added to the agenda for me. As I'm sure you're all aware, the federal government of Canada has mandated a move in our emergency telecommunications across country. This change will see an aging analog infrastructure replaced with the new digital next generation 911 system. Part of this transition to next generation 911 requires regional districts to sign local governing authority agreements with the network service providers, TELUS in this case, to set out the responsibilities between those parties. As the CRD is our regional district, they are responsible authority to guarantee all public safety answer points, so PSAPs, meet the technical requirements of the CRTC, the Canadian Radio and Telecommunications Commission, to access this next generation 911 network. However, the CRD does not have the contractual agreements or oversight with local municipalities on who they choose to contract the secondary PSAPs. As a result, the bilateral agreement between with the CRD, if executed, will establish language to outline the obligations and technical requirements for municipalities when selecting these PSAPs. Tonight, I recommend that Council approve the bilateral agreement and authorize Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer or Corporate Officer to execute the agreement on behalf of the city. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Pretty straightforward. This is all the municipalities in Victoria, then all 13. The question is, it's sort of not covered in the staff report, but what's the cost of this?
The overall cost, I don't have the exact answer for you there. Yeah, I'll leave it with that. I don't have the exact answer for that one.
Just incredible that we have to make decisions when not all the information is available. Okay, it's not your fault. I know that. Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Jantzen.
Thank you. So my basic understanding is the CRD couldn't do this on our behalf. We need to backstop this basically so they can go forward and deal with e-com, or
Basically, the way it works.
simplify it for me.
Sorry, certainly. Basically, the way it works is TELUS, as the network service provider, has an agreement with regional districts. The CRD and municipal members have obligations. So we have our ability to, or our autonomy to choose secondary PSAPs. Those, in common terms, those are dispatchers. So we can choose our dispatch agency, similar to what we do with Surrey Dispatch. Because of that ability to have that autonomy, CRD does not have any contractual obligation over what we do and who we choose. As a result, they need to have some kind of assurance to ensure that our secondary PSAPs and dispatchers meet the technical criteria to be on the network. So this agreement that we'll put in place with, and again, with all municipalities within the CRD will have the same agreement in place. And that allows and ensures that all dispatching agencies will be NENA I3 compliant.
I think I'm there. Yeah, and so, I mean, this is specific to fire for us because presumably the RCMP and our contract with the RCMP and through ECOM, are we going to be doing this for them as well, or is this specific to the fire because we've chosen to go with Surrey? Is that the idea?
Yeah, in this specific incident, this is for fire. Yeah, because we have Surrey. There are, I want to say, 4 other approved dispatching agencies that meet the criteria right now. And in the agreement, we do have language. So if an additional one came on, there is a process in place so that we could actually choose as another provider, dispatch provider that was, as long as they met all the criteria that's laid out.
And yes, Mr. Mayor, it is going to cost, and it's going to cost at both ends because this has been on the horizon for the last decade. And where it ends is the ability for someone to text 911. So all those dropped 911 calls, now we're going to get dropped text calls and all the GPS data that goes with it. And it's going to be a big deal. So thank you.
Mr. Johnson, just a quick question for you, and it's unfair because you've been here for 8 days. But is this the right time to ask the question to them? Like it's to me, it's when you pre-agree to something, then they always go back in history and say you agreed to this before, and so you're stuck with this. But is it the time now to sort of put a caveat in this right now where, you know, we can look at, you know, give us the out on the fund, how it's funded. Like I would, you know, they're dealing with CRTC right now, and to have that surcharge put on a cell phone bill, is this the right time to do this? So, you know, it's never the right time, but for us to put that little flag up right now, instead of us sort of blindly saying, hey, we agree, and just do it to us. Just a quick question.
Council could approve the agreement subject to additional costs, identifying what those costs would be. In fact, when this report came across my desk, the chief and I spoke about the tariffs, right? And the tariffs and what that looks like. But we don't have the details because it's not included within the agreements. It's tariffs at some point in the future, and what that cost factor, I'm not sure what that is either, because that goes on to every resident that uses a cell phone and connection to be able to use the 911 service. This has been moved forward on the agenda because the CRD is looking for our approval by January 31st, with the understanding that if we don't do this, that we might not have 911 as an opportunity. So that's why it's a late item. It's not something we would typically want to put in front of council as a late item, but came as one as a result of being necessary. But I'm happy to run this up the flagpole and see what we can get in terms of costs, subject to council's approval.
Would someone like to make that motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Grove, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Day. Discussion on that? Seeing that, Councillor Day.
Thank you. I do think it's important to try to put that caveat in there if it's at all possible, because we need to be holding all levels of governance accountable for giving us details that we need to put into our 5-year financial plan, because we can't just keep putting things on the, you know, well, it's necessary, so we'll just have to do it. Sometimes we're going to have to think outside of the box or get some confirmations before things are put into those long-term plans.
Thank you. So I made a bit of a boo-boo. I should have had the motion on the original recommendation and then had the amendment to the motion. So pardon me, and I'll go back to the original recommendation that the CEO and the mayor be authorized to sign off on this. Can I get a motion, please? And then mine's an amendment to it.
Okay, so I'll move the original motion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Seconder, please. Okay, Councillor Grove. Discussion on that, pretty straightforward. So we already approved my amendment, so sorry about that. We can fudge it, right? Okay. And so to, I'll call the question on the original motion as amended. Any opposed? Oops, Councillor. Okay.
Oh, actually.
Okay, Councillor Ward, I did everything out of order anyway, so.
I think it's worth noting, though, that, you know, the concern around the pricing is evident, but the letter from Ted Robbins of the CRD was delivered in September. And the CRD board advanced this in April 2024. So this wasn't something that just cropped up last week. It's arrived in front of council last minute, but there has been some time to ask some questions and identify some of these key things. Now, maybe the CRD wasn't forthcoming. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But, you know, it isn't new. So I just wanted to make note of that, this is a serious enough issue that maybe a little digging would have been merited, but I'll leave it at that.
Point noted, for sure. Go to the question, call the question on the motion, original motion as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, unanimous, motion carries. Thanks very much, Brian. We got it done expediently, so we got the gist. We go to 9.4, which was the original 7.1, and which is Desiree. If I can have you come up to the mic and you can maybe answer some questions. This is on bylaw 1700-10 OCP amendment. That's the environmental development permit area, engagement update and response. And maybe I'll go over to Councillor Day for questions on that. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I didn't want to interrupt Desiree if there was anything she wanted to say first, but just curious. It's an issue that causes me concern because we worked for many years with champagne tastes and a beer budget, and we've put it on a lot of developers to hire environmental professionals to try to both have our cake and eat it too, to develop and also protect the environment. And it hasn't always worked out all that well. So when we're looking at this report, I was doing a lot of digging into the past reports that were done going back to the early 2000s on development within the Latoria Valley or other parts of Colwood. And I had considerable concern both as to whether or not we are doing work that is and should rightfully be the responsibility of developers to do in hiring professionals. They're the ones that want to develop land with environmental features, then show us how you're going to take care of them. But we also, I think, need to do our work to understand how we're going to ensure that the environment is protected through that. So when we're looking, the recommendation says staff be directed to explore the option of adopting and designating predetermined SPIAs, which are streamside protection and enhancement areas. What exactly are we asking you to do? Are you going to do SPIAs, or are we going to occasionally do them or sometimes do them? I'm finding that difficult.
Thank you, Councillor Day and through the Mayor. To answer your question, we would be retaining a consultant to assist us with doing the predetermined SPIAs for major creeks within Colwood. So there's been set aside some budget in the 2025 budget for doing this work. And so we'll have a better understanding for the typical creeks that we see landowners' properties being backed onto. We'll create the recommendations to return to Planning, Land Use Committee, Environment Committee, and Council for a recommended SPIA or setback from the creek. And that will provide a little bit more clarity, hopefully, for not just developers, but also the average everyday homeowners with respect to what they can do within their backyards and what that line is, at which areas of the lines they need to stay out of.
Great. And so in doing it this way, does that minimize the size of area that's being protected? Or is it the same whether we do the SPIAs ourselves or go the other route?
Thank you for the question. It would be either the same or more than what is currently being protected. So the recommendation or the requirement from the province is that if you do predetermined SPIAs, it either needs to meet or beat the level of protection that's afforded to through the wrapper process. So yeah, it would be either the same or more than what's currently being determined by the QEPs through private developments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jantzen.
Thank you, Desiree. And I'm just recalling some of our planning and land use committee discussion around this. And I believe it was, we agreed that this move would allow for more certainty for us as a community and more certainty for homeowners and developers to understand exactly where a SPIA is. And we would possess that data, and they could come to us and confirm with their property, what was behind and how far they could build. And there was zero discussion about any changes to any of the size or the setbacks or any of the distances. Am I right in that?
Thank you, Councillor Jantzen, and through the mayor. Yes, you are correct. So we'd be exploring what the SPIA is for each property. It would be a general sense, and yeah, it'd be, like I said, more than what's currently being provided.
And we would possess that data, hang on to that, and then we could provide information to individual homeowners. And I think the part that appealed to me and perhaps some other committee members is just a simple residential homeowner who might have a stream behind their home that wanted to undertake some renovations could gain some certainty from development services on how far they can push their fence line and what have you, let alone, a developer having some certainty that, yes, there is a SPIA. You'll have to hire the appropriate, engineering firm or what have you.
Yes, that is correct. So we will have a map showing all the SPIAs, and that would essentially help residents and developers understand where you can place a building and where you can't. And that would be data that the city would possess and take ownership of, and that would be updated regularly as we learn more about the properties, and residents and developers would be able to challenge our SPIAs by going through the wrapper process.
Right. And I take it that just moving forward, would that be available through our GIS mapping? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Ward? Oops, sorry, Councillor.
No, I just wanted to echo what Councillor Jantzen said. I too was at that land use planning committee. I think the consensus of the committee was that there was some short-term pain in putting this together, but long-term gain for residents in terms of creating efficiencies, which I think is something we should always be seeking to do, even on the back end. It's something that you may not dig into unless you are that property owner looking to, add on to a home or a deck or a developer. So it was debated pretty thoroughly, and I felt that the gain in terms of the service that City Hall offers to everybody, all stakeholders, residents and developers, was outweighed by the short-term cost, and the committee supported it unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ward, can I get you to move it then, please? Second by Councillor Jantzen. Any other discussion, please? Seeing none, are there any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, if I can get Kelsey. Is Kelsey here? Yeah. We'll get you up on the brilliant post here. And again, Councillor Day, would you have questions on this?
So my concern is with regard to antenna sightings. So I recognize the issues with self-service in Royal Bay, and that's an important thing to address. But my concern is that previously, when we were trying to address issues that homeowners were having with the tower on Triangle Mountain, the issue became that after the siting had been put in place with a report that said it was only going to be this many things on that tower, that once it had our approval, it could be changed at a later date to have a much wider array. So originally that tower had only a small amount of cell service on it and eventually became a very powerful antenna array where people were having malfunctions of electronic equipment, recording studios that were in the area were not able to record without interference, etc. So my concern is that it is quite close to some houses in Colwood, and that there may be no impacts from the array that's placed on it at this time, but that once we've approved the location, the amount of power or number of arrays that are attached to it or the height of the pole could change. Did you consider that?
Thank you, Councillor Day, through the mayor. So the application is subject to review under the Federal Radio Communication and Broadcasting Antenna System Policy. So ultimately, it is the federal government that has final say. The city does provide a letter of concurrence to the proposal as is. I understand that if changes happen, a letter of concurrence from the municipality is required again if needed. The applicant is here if they wish to speak further, but that it satisfies your question that it ultimately is a federal process for changes.
Yeah, the federal government didn't care what was happening to our residents before, so I doubt they will care again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kelsey. More of a statement, but again, speaking on behalf of the Land Use and Planning Committee, this came before that committee and was overwhelmingly supported. I think Councillor Jantzen raised some good points about the tower height and some of the apparatus to support the crest system. I don't want to steal your thunder if you wanted to speak about that, but I thought that was very valid. And then also, you know, the recognition that this is not a vanity issue about people just wanting to have better cell service, is that we have a major concern in the Royal Bay area and environs with cell service, so much so that it's a safety issue. RCMP are unable to make contact with phone in cases where they need to do that, and actions long overdue. It was also noted at the committee that all policy questions were met, with the sole exception that it be sited on city property. But in this case, you know, it's on open development land. Really, at this point, the only housing adjacent to it would be across the road into Machosen, which has a large barrier of mature trees, and then some homes, you know, within Colwood that will see it from their area. The only resident objections were where there are residents up that hill and one or two over on Latoria. But it's worth noting that roughly 50%, 60% of the committee were residents in that area, and again, overwhelmingly supported it. So I know, speaking as a resident of Royal Bay and in informal communication with people there, that this is a widely supported initiative, and I will be voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, can I get Councillors Ward and Jantzen again as the chair and vice chair of move in second? Thank you very much. Discussion? Seeing none. Are any opposed? Okay, Councillor Day is opposed. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kelsey. Okay, we move on to bylaws. And first bylaws, I'll let you read them. You're getting to be the reader of bylaws.
Thank you, Your Worship. So bylaw 1710, the official community plan amendment, environmental development permit area. I need a motion first to repeal first and second reading, please.
Okay, Councillor Olson, Councillor Jordison. Discussion. I have one just one niggly-piggly. And it has nothing to do with it's, when we see the amendments, it's so hard, like you have to, well, I have to print out both copies because I can't tell what's been changed. It's crazy. If we could just have the one and just the vertical bars to show what the changes are, that'd be great. And I wouldn't have to print them out. It's just too long. If you don't mind, that would be great. Other than that, there's no other questions, no discussion. Right? Oh. Yeah, I don't care as long as something, because it's so hard to tell. I had to actually print them both out. Aside that the amendment was 6 or 7 pages longer, or 8 pages longer, but I was just trying to figure out what changed in it. That would be great. Anyways, on that note, I'll call the question. Oh, Councillor Jantzen, sorry about that.
Slightly germane, I mean, there have been examples where bylaws have been included with the new and the proposed, with a strikeout. And I find that very useful. So some reports seem to have it, some don't, but, if we can make it easy and just strike out, use the strikeout.
I don't
Review.
Frankly, I don't care.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Ward.
I feel like I've gone back in time to the early 90s when I want to talk about MS Word's feature called track changes. It's out there. So maybe we can take a look at our office suite. But yes, I thought Councillor Grove made a point. The Environment Committee gets a marked up copy. I think at the committee level, they're doing the track changes markup. So maybe we just carry that forward to council.
That'd be the simplest thing. Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next, please.
Thank you. So bylaw 1710, official community plan amendment, environment development permit area for first and second reading as amended.
Okay. Over, please. Wait, Councillor Grove, Councillor Ward. Discussion? Seeing none. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next, please.
Sewer local area service enlargement amendment bylaws for first, second, and third readings. Bylaw number 2050 for Colwood, Maine, LAS enlargement for 3536 Wishart Road, and bylaw 2051 Colwood South Sewer LSA enlargement for 3536 Wishart Road.
Okay, motion, Councillor Jantzen, seconder. Councillor Grove, discussion, seeing none, call the question. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. We are finished with the regular council agenda. I'll take a recess here because we will be going into in camera.